Well, good morning and welcome to Breakfast Extra. Now, did you know we now have a brand new terrorist group in Nigeria? Yes, as if inflation, floods, and daily power outages weren't enough to keep us on our toes, the Department of Defense says there's a shiny new extremist group stirring up trouble up north. So now, along with existing terror groups competing in the Who Can Make Life Worse in Nigeria Again talent show, we're adding a fresh contender, just in time for Christmas, I guess. It's almost as if Nigeria is the global hotbed for insecurity innovation. Yes, you call it that. We've got a conference for it even. We can think nonsense ideas just for suffering. And as we think about all this security, let's turn our gaze to food. Ever heard of food insecurity? Well, soon 33 million Nigerians won't just hear about it, they'll feel it, is what we're hearing. Experts are warning that by 2025, 1 in 6 Nigerians might be struggling to find enough to eat. Yes, our grand prize for living through this economic T-Pain remix in 2024 is a forecast of empty plates itself. Imagine if we've been coasting through scarcity in the year 2024, 2025 is promising to make it a full-fledged lifestyle. I mean, hey, neighbor, how are you? Good morning. Hey, how are you? You don't chop today? No, I never chopped since yesterday. Nah, me, not 3 days, I never chop. That's what we're going to be doing in 2025. And speaking of scarcity, who could forget our national power grid? Oh, last Thursday it collapsed again, reportedly due to repair works. So now we're on a constant cycle of off again, on again power grid. And it begs the question, where can we ever turn to at this point? We have an economy hobbling on crutches, an agricultural sector gasping for breath, our power supply that's allergic to being left on in itself. What next, Nigeria? Oh, wait, there is more. You know, in other countries, news of a new extremist group or an economic crisis would lead to swift action and solutions. But here in Nigeria, no, it's like, no, another crisis, just add it to the list of what we already have. It's as if we're collectively auditioning for a dystopian reality show with no commercial breaks and no season finale. It just keeps on going. A hungry, frustrated population climbing prices and jobs as scarce as fuel on a Monday morning. Nigerians are honestly running out of patience. Nigerians are running out of money. Nigerians are running out of options. And if you've ever wondered how much a nation can take before it reaches its breaking point, well, Nigeria is determined to find out. And with steady beat of great collapses, news of violent extremist groups, and predictions of food shortages, this whole country seems to be inching toward that limit. It's almost like we're trapped in a dark basket mouth comedy bit with a grim punchline that's yet to be realized. But truth be regarded, how far do you think a people can bend before they snap under the weight of everything we're going through? Because make no mistake, stressed out citizens can only handle so much before the pain takes on a life of its own. But hold on, before we start lighting torches and looking for pitchforks, let's remember we're still here to laugh a little, especially at the beginning of our breakfast show here when we give you the prologue. We can even do that through clenched teeth. It doesn't matter. This is the start of Breakfast Extra, after all. It's your Sunday reprieve for the week's woes, and as we prepare you for another week. Well, my name is Mazino, and I'm here to pour out a strong cup of wit into your morning, and of course, alongside my brilliant co-host Judith and TB, who will be joining me soon. We're here to guide you through the daily dose of absurdity with a bit of perspective, a bit of humor here and there, where we can find it, and maybe even a dash of optimism. If we can find any of that lying around, trust us, we'll bring it. So grab your coffee, brace yourself, and join us as we dig into today's news. It's Sunday, and we're about to see what the dailies have in store between food insecurity, another national grid collapse, and yet another threat to national security. Let's find out if there's anything at all to keep us happy. At least keep us from crying. We'll take that one. Welcome to Breakfast Extra.
Yeah. And a very good morning to you, and welcome to another Sunday installment of Breakfast Extra. As always, we've got a packed lineup today. just for you. We're diving into major headlines and in-depth analysis of stories from home and, of course, across the continent. Today, we've got updates on local developments and top issues to watch out for this week as well. We also have our Weekend Warrior segment, which will feature the late Chief of Army Staff, and that's Taoreed Lagbaja. And we'll look at his efforts in bolstering Nigeria's security and strategies to tackle growing threats across the nation, especially in the wake of a new terrorist group. Now, we'll also turn our gaze to politics as we are examining the state local government elections, where some states are seeing shifts in power as local governments are swept up by less prominent parties. So we're going to ask questions like, what do these changes mean for governance, representation, and the potential reshaping of political landscapes at the grassroots level? That question and more is going to be answered inside our big story. And last but certainly not least, we're going to be looking at the energy sector. Africa Energy Week, to be precise, is in the spotlight, highlighting policies, takeaways, and action as well. We'll discuss emerging initiatives to boost sustainable energy and analyze decisions that are being made on the sidelines and discussions from the summit, and also consider their real-world impact for African nations thriving toward energy independence, or even just striving to it. So I want to say welcome, relax, sit back, have your karam pap. I know, that's the best, right? And let's dive into today's biggest story. But as usual, we'll start with the dailies. But Mazino has kind of given us a snapshot of all of it taking inside.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed.
I did that.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing.
Which one of Nigeria's mess salad are you going to be picking from this morning? Which one actually strikes you best? Is it the new terrorist group, the power outage with the national grid?
So it's a power outage
or
now.
Is it the consistent fuel hike and
it's
everything, all scarcity of it? Or is just suffer that we suffer through in Nigeria?
I think it's always that's a nice bowl of cherries.
Abacha.
It's delicious, but definitely the power grid. Definitely the power grid.
That touches everything.
It touches everything, right? So it's definitely the power grid when I think about it. I mean, one can also say the new terrorist group, but one can also argue that Boko Haram is, sort of losing its hold in certain areas, and they're slowly, falling back, and now they are now unknown gunmen. They're beginning to rebrand. So the Lakarawa could be just another rebrand of Boko Haram.
I didn't see it as that one.
I said
before.
it. So this is the gospel according to Judith. All right.
Interesting, actually.
Yeah.
But then again, hey, this is Nigeria, where we wake up to one daily mess after the other. But we're here to at least put a little bit of spin on it somehow for the start of the week, the very first show that what gets you prepared for what this week will bring your way. But let's take a look at the previous one.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Welcome. Let's do the Sunday dailies now, shall we?
Yes, of course.
We're starting with the Punch newspaper. Front and center for the Punch newspaper. Under governorship polls, customers blame parties as banks run out of cash. This seems to be a strategy when it comes to elections. I don't know how it works exactly. There are certain things about it that I'm not clear on. Politicians withdrawing up to 300 million naira daily, says bank manager. Ondurek must be removed to avoid 1983 crisis. PDP governor candidate says, let what happened in 1983 not happen again. Remember that joke? Return my drink. At the top here, 113 foreign hackers enjoy police escorts before arrest, says Abuja residents. True. Tinubu will win 2027 presidential election, says the APC. To the side here, we have this one, Northern Group, Staggle DHQ, as Lukarawas kills 15 KB villages. There's still a bit of confusion regarding exactly the pronunciation. Some media organizations call it the Lukarawas, while others call it the Lakarawas. But I think the clarity will come eventually. President's controversial tax bill splits National Assembly, and U.S. deported me after traveling for 4 years through 10 countries, says late Onis musician. Very interesting. At the bottom for the Punch newspaper, hardship pushes Lagos teenage schoolgirls into prostitution. Oh no. And why I kept my fiancé secret for 7 years, Charles Okocha. Yeah, very...
Well, if I was her, I also want to be kept a secret. Sorry. Ooh. Moving on. However, from the Punch, we move now to our next headline, Sunday paper for today, and this time is the Vanguard. Hashtag end bad governance, row over judge in minors at a treason case. That story is on page 9. Iguatu, let me see there. Iguatu Arid, that's from the NBA president, Sands. NJC should be... All right, I cannot see that font very clearly.
I'm trying to help you, but I can't find my page for the Vanguard.
I cannot see that font very clearly.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. All
right, go ahead.
All right, where are we at now? How we achieved groundbreaking... Oh, yes. Now I see what you're going through. It's the print, actually.
The print is just a weird
We'll take it from here. We'll take it from here. Oh, we'll just move on to another paper. The print is a bit too...
Yeah, the print is killing my eyes. Thank you. But the big one there, the hashtag end bad governance, and there we go. To The Nation now. We move on to The Nation newspaper. Ondo, APC, PDP intensify campaigns ahead of Saturday's Guba poll. You can find that story on The Nation for a Sunday. All citizens must reject corruption, say CJN, Sanusi, and Fashola. That story is on page 6. Your Highness.
My high horse?
You know.
Your Highness. Okay.
How do you refer to Chief Judge?
That's a...
Your Lordship.
Your Lordship. Your High... I don't know. What are you getting at?
What I'm getting at is, how about you leave nice citizens alone and focus on the judiciary and their conflicting court order? Thank you. New minimum wage, fresh battle looms over arrears. Workers demand new deal for pensioners. Imo, Plateau, Osun still negotiating. At the bottom there, Okonjo Iweala is sole candidate for WTO DG position.
Now listen. You want to say something? Go ahead. Go, ladies
Number
first.
one, okay? I remember when she was going for this the first time around in 2020, and Trump was doing everything he possibly could do in his power to make sure she didn't win. Then Biden came, supported her bill, and she became the head. And now she's now the only nobody's put in a bid, because normally what they do is you put in a bid before November 8th, and she's the only one who's put in a bid. She's the only sole contender for that role, which means she might be the next, she's going to be the head again for another 4 years. I cannot wait. I cannot wait for her and Big Donnie to go toe-to-toe.
Now that's going to be very interesting. A very intelligent woman against a very
Mazino.
less intelligent, but
what a time to be alive.
Not necessarily to be looked over. Now I'm using very choice good words.
There we go.
I'm trying to be very civil here.
I cannot wait.
But interesting one. I actually think that's a testament to how intelligent Okonjo Iweala is.
Wow.
Her power, her experience, and what people see as her value.
Mazino,
and she's all Nigerian.
Do you know, I cannot get over the fact that on her birthday, Bon Jovi sent her... Bon Jovi?
It is Bon Jovi.
She's Beyonce, sorry. For world leaders. She's a Beyonce for world leaders.
Yep.
There we go.
Let's move on to our next daily this morning, and we're going to be moving on to the Tribune. The Sunday Tribune this morning has front and center for you. Growing hardship, call for Nigeria's restructuring intensifies. Movement proposes 10 region arrangements. Says 99% Nigerians, no country becoming a disaster. How he kidnapped Oba's wife, kept her in forest for 14 days, collected 28 million naira ransom. Leader of kidnap gang terrorizing Ogu confesses. Zamfara student in Cyprus sleeps in mosque, risk imprisonment. CSO raises the alarm. And paying for Nigeria responsibility of all citizens. Tell me about it. That's the Oluremi Tinubu. That's Oluremi Tinubu says denies plan to hold national prayer. At the top for the Tribune newspaper, 15 killed as Lakarawas terror group residents clash in Kebbi. Now, this was my fear of actually identifying and giving credit or giving media space to that name, because we're going to start seeing this more. And it's like, I say, well, we got your attention that time, let's do something bigger. So that was my fear when I heard the story during the week, and it seems to be the one thing pasted across all the headlines for all the papers this morning. Tinubu cautions graduates on Jagba. I saw this yesterday, tells them not to seek greener pastures. President jets out to Saudi Arabia today. Now, it's a very hard decision to make if you have the opportunity to actually step out of Nigeria. And for anybody to say, I'm not going to take that option, it's a very big deal. Would you take the option? I wait and see until when I'm presented with that. However, for the president to continue to, and I think the Lagos State government, if I'm not mistaken, governor actually did the same thing only just over this weekend, insisting that there's plenty of gold here, in quote now, in Nigeria. Don't abandon it, was what he said. But it's a very hard ask to ask anybody who has that opportunity, especially if you're still young. It's very hard.
I won't say something, but I can't say it. It's national television. Let's just keep it moving.
Let's keep it moving. That would be it for the Sunday Tribune. Let's move on now to our next daily newspaper. And our next daily would be the Sunday Independent.
Sunday Independent. Doubt swells over Atiku as opposition leader ahead of 2027. That story is on page 3 of the Sunday Independent. Return of Trump. Undocumented immigrants in U.S. risk deportation. Experts say that story is on page 4. I am not organizing national prayer. That's from the president's wife, the First Lady Oluremi Tinubu. Federal state roads in Edo. Commissioner tackles Obaseki's critics. That story is on page 4. We go there to the bottom. There, lawyers, activists tackle Tinubu over continued trial of protesters. Says government's action unconscionable, unacceptable. That story is on page 3 as well. It goes on to say, insist there's no justification for trying peaceful protesters. At the bottom there, we have bad lawyers, judges amongst us. And that's from the CJ, and about time, madam. Remove them, clean up the system, and that's from Emir Sanusi. AGF Fagbemi, concerned about recent conflicting rulings. Well, he ought to be, because we all are as well. You can find that story on page 4. On page 5 there, you're going to find this story. Fuel price crisis. Stakeholders doubt success of conversion to CNG vehicle model. This has been a concern for a number of people, and not just the conversion, also the safety of it as well. And at the bottom there, U.S. presidential election, worthy example for Nigeria analysts. No, it's not. No, it is not. That's what I would say. And no, I can't say it. I don't want to say what I want to say.
It's okay. It's all right. All right, let's move on now to the Sunday Times. Sunday Times, illegal mining, oil theft, Cold War brews amongst security agencies as FG Mall Special Forces, says the NMRS. And at the bottom, there's spots with headlines here for this Sunday. Okowa did not fund my presidential campaign. Atiku tells EFCC. This was the debate from yesterday, from before, that Okowa actually used all that money that is being alleged that he embezzled 1.3 trillion to finance the Atiku Okowa campaign. It might have seemed so. I don't blame people for actually thinking so. But it's a very interesting soap opera.
And it makes us ask a question. So what was PDP doing on the sideline when Okowa was funding their campaign? If he was. Allegedly. That's a question.
Until the investigations, we can't say exactly. But it's a very interesting take with Atiku telling now that no, I've got my own money. I mean, hey, BG. Let's keep going. Okonjo Iweala's bid for second term as DG will be unopposed. WTO. Beautiful, has a beautiful ring to it, and we love to hear that. At the very top, Nigeria states FCT's domestic debt rises by 198.96 billion naira in second quarter of 2024. We haven't seen what the third one is yet. We just might find out. And a NEL fund, 105,844 students, 98 institutions granted loans. That's a lot of people. Let's see how far that goes. We'll continue to follow it. Understanding Wike through his political battles dotted by betrayals. Let's see what made the man who he is.
Oh, a villain story?
A villain story. Yes, indeed. I think this one would rival the Joker. Get it?
No.
All right.
I don't.
Let's move on quickly. If we have any other dailies this morning, I think, because we're done with the Sunday Times, and we're moving to the Sunday Standard, which is going outside of Nigeria.
Yes, indeed. I think this is all the way from Kenya. Revealed mothers stuck in Saudi with stateless kids. Thousands of Kenyans pick their bags every year and head to the Gulf countries in search of jobs. Unfortunately, the opportunities are sometimes not as rosy as they are made to be. The investigations reveal the misery of hundreds of Kenyan women trapped with their stateless children, born out of either liaisons with local men who do not want to take any responsibility for other struggling immigrants. So I've always said this thing that if you pick any African country, you just realize and put them side by side to Nigeria, it's always separate sides of the same coin.
Yeah, but I wanted to bring in something to your attention. The Sunday Times for, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Malawi has this story. I think we can put that up. Bone skull crushers on the loose. You wouldn't know what they're referring to, but they're actually referring to the menace of Okadas. They're not called Okadas there, but motorcycle operators, which is very interesting. Motorcycle operators have denigrated its terror in Malawi roads, maiming and killing people at will and not being answerable for their crimes and human rights
Bone
abuses.
skull crushers.
It is the way it's put. First big headline for a Sunday.
There is nothing that comes close to that. Like, literally, when you look at that front page, absolutely nothing.
And there they are, the bone crushers themselves.
The use of...
I wonder what their equivalent for Igbobi is. That would be a very good parallel to draw. Igbobi. You don't know about Igbobi?
What is that?
Oh my goodness, somebody please send her a text. So Igbobi is it's a hospital here in Lagos where you go to if you've got bone fracture. And the reason why the Okada ban was actually put in place was because of the number of people who came each day with cases of Okada accidents, and that mandated the Lagos State government to at a time actually ban Okadas.
Ban Okadas, yeah.
So Igbobi and Okadas go together. So I'm wondering what bone crushers would go with in Malawi. You get it?
Mazino.
Yeah.
Let's
draw parallels.
Anyway.
I think that's it for our dailies this morning. We've gone across Africa. We've gone to Malawi and Kenya and back here in Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's get ready for our first big report. Going to be very fun. Do stay tuned. This is Breakfast Extra. You know what? How about we just go straight into our big
fun
report?
times. Let's do that.
Yes, let's. Now, to kick off today's big report, we're diving into a new unsettling development. Tell you what, let's take a break and then bring you that story so it's really compact. We'll be back in just about a bit. And now let's move on to another art form when it comes to news. And this, well, it's the strips. A little bit of comic relief for you. It is a Sunday morning after all. We're going to be starting our strips this morning with very interesting ones from Business Day, our favorite here. And then next to that, maybe a couple from Daily Trust. But from Business Day, we have this very interesting take on the instance here in Nigeria regarding terrorism. And this is actually how terrorists are recruited. Judith, take a look at this. Now, it's one terrorist talking to people, perhaps maybe members of a village or a community, telling them that, hey, we're not going to do what the government does to you. We'll feed you guys, we'll clothe you guys, we'll not force you guys to vote, we're not going to arrest you guys, we're not going to throw you guys in jail. We're quite unlike the government. We'll protect you, and if you want to protest, we'll give you people real weapons, not placards. This is the current state of things in the north, like we've just told about the new terrorist group that seems to be wreaking havoc across Sokoto and environs there. This is kind of like how they are formed. It's very simple need that actually begins these kinds of things. Need for food, shelter, security. And if they can provide it, then who's the Nigerian government? I don't know, what's your take?
Well, I'm with you on that boat as well. I feel like if I was going to go to the north, and I can't, don't indict yourself, Judith.
No.
If you were going to be if an average person who has, evil intentions were to get into the minds or a mastermind, and you were to get into the minds of the very vulnerable, what would you do is what's the biggest grievances that they have? That's how you win their trust and win them over. And this is a tale as old as time.
Yeah. Take advantage of the pain.
Take advantage of the pain.
And it's when pain is in surplus in this T-pain economy, I mean, hey. Let's move on now. We've got another one now, haven't we? I think we might have a couple from Business Day, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, indeed. Business Day, energy costs. This is the average Nigerian with taxes. SMEs are not finding it easy lately. I have a small business myself, and I know what it felt like to have deductions only just during the week, and heavy deductions, and I'm wondering exactly how I'm going to recuperate from these deductions, whether it's not yet time, whether time is not ripe enough for a another look at these deductions or taxes that are being placed on businesses, because we are dying under the weight of powering our own generators. We are dying under the weight of logistics. We're dying under the weight of paying staff. It is a terrible instance. And I think just until the economy actually heals itself,
right,
God knows how, we should at least be considered when it comes to small businesses.
I don't know. I do not envy those who are trying to keep the lights on or trying to keep their businesses alive in this tough, soaring cost of living crisis that we find ourselves. I don't, and I think that they are the backbone of our very, very, very informal sector that we have. They literally are the backbone of our workforce. When you take them away, I can only imagine what the unemployment numbers would be. And so it's even extra harder trying to keep the light on, but also knowing that not just your family is reliant on that business, but also your workers and their family as well.
Small businesses matter, whether you like it or not.
They matter.
Cook your food while you're going out for lunch, or make your clothes or even the dry cleaner. These small businesses are what put together the bigger one.
They all rely on
that's going to be just rubbish, isn't it? Let's move on now. Next strip for this morning, while we take a look at these beautiful art forms that describe to a T our daily lives in Nigeria. From the Vanguard newspaper, latest in our human rights record. Remember this one, the kids in court from before? Well, this is what it is. I'm hungry. Fry pan to fire. We're just going to roast you some more. We thank goodness that the presidency actually stepped in and said, no, let's get those kids out of there. But it was the backlash. It was actually the prosecution from before to actually look at these children and say, you are a married man. That really kind of like got me all through last week. Nigerians will only protest. This is the only thing that they have in their armory. You're smiling. What is this?
I was thinking about something, and I think it was a comment I made. I was saying that they're very quick to point out young men that are married and be like, "Oh, because you're married, you have autonomy, and you are
do whatever.
You're not a child. If you're married, you're not a child. But when you flip it over to child brides, it's a different conversation entirely.
Yeah.
So that's what I find it very interesting. It's like when it comes to criminal and treason and felony, you are very quick to say that's a man and they are not children, they are married, and so we can try them to court. But when you flip that thing over its head and you put women there, and it's like, we don't want to get married with children. I'm like, come off it. Come on.
Can you not see your mates?
Can you not see your mates? It's interesting.
Yeah.
Start smiling.
Those are the strips that we can bring to you this morning here at Vanguard on Business. They had very interesting ones from over the week. And of course, we'd like you to also suggest a couple for us next week. If you'd like us to take them, just bring them to our note by using a hashtag, perhaps maybe New Central TV. We're going to see it and then we're going to use it for next week. Thank you very much. All right. We can't wait to get to the rest of the show after the strips this morning. So do stay tuned. It's still Breakfast Extra. And now to kick off today's big report, we're diving into a new unsettling developments. Just when we thought that we were managing the multiple layers of security challenges across Nigeria, another twist emerges. The Defense Headquarters has confirmed the rise of a new terrorist group causing unrest in Sokoto and surrounding states. With this group's appearance, Nigeria faces a renewed threat on its northern front, which has long battled instability from established extremism factions. What does this emergence of this group mean for the already delicate security situation in the region? And what are the broader implications for national safety? Well, we had a package put together by Amadin Uyi, our news central correspondent up in the north. We're going to have that play now, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by him. Let's take a look at his report.
The briefing was supposed to update citizens of the ongoing operations against terrorist groups and criminal elements across the country. However, it came as a shock to those present as the director of the Defense Media Operations announced that the military had identified the existence of a new terrorist group in the northwestern region of the country.
Troops are confronted with a new terrorist sect in the northwest. This sect is known as Lakurawa. The Lakurawas are affiliated to terrorists from the Sahel, particularly from Mali and Niger republics. They began incursion into northwestern part of Nigeria, namely Sokoto and Kebbi states. And like I mentioned, they came in from Niger and the Mali axis.
He accused residents in the area of embracing the group, but assured that the military is already working round the clock to dislodge them from the country.
When they came in, did the people see them? They saw them. What did they do? They embraced them rather than report them. And what has that resulted to? The people saw them as friends. The same friends they thought were friends have turned to foes. And we did not get this report on time until we started creating some havoc. We are on top of that situation. We have sustained our intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, and accordingly carried out air interdiction, ground offensives to degrade these terrorists, find them, flush them, until we finally defeat them. The same way we have defeated terrorist groups in the northeastern part of this country.
The director urged citizens to be security conscious and partner with the military, especially in the area of intelligence sharing. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
And now joining us is Amadine Uyi. He is the Bureau Chief for News Central Television, and he joins us this morning to dissect just basically his report and what these means in terms of counter-terrorism and just the regional stability. Amadine, many thanks for joining us and very good morning to you.
Thank you, Judith.
I mean, let's get started. Just being at the DHQ there and getting that news that there was another or a new terrorist group, what was the atmosphere like, and what was that like for you hearing a name of a new group being announced?
Okay, first of all, I would just like to describe this kind of briefings. It's a briefing where updates are given on military operations by Nigerian troops fortnightly. Now, so what you expect to hear is that the military has neutralized so amount of terrorists. The military has rescued so amount of abducted victims. The military has been able to destroy logistics network of these of terrorist groups and criminal elements. But when the director of defense information, director of defense media operations, Major General Edward Buba, started with the military had identified another terrorist sect in the Northwest, so much runs through your mind, because for somebody who has covered defense for well over 12 years, and you witnessed the heydays of the Boko Haram terrorist group, you witnessed the military having to reorganize and trying to learn on the field so as to be able to crush these terrorist groups. And then you are aware of trillions, as of today, over 5 trillion naira has been spent to see that Nigeria ends terrorism. A lot of things begin to run through your mind. Are we going around in circles?
Seems to be having issues there with Amadine's connection there. Amadine Uyi is our News Central's Abuja Bureau Chief, and he just joined us to discuss about, we understand that Amadine is back. Amadine, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I said a lot of things begin to run through your mind, because the first questions you begin to ask when you juxtapose how much has been spent on fighting terrorism and insurgency in the north, and then over 5 trillion naira as of today and then you now hear that another terrorist group is already embedded, you begin to ask yourself, the intelligence agencies that were responsible to have nipped this in the bud, issues about religious regulation of religious teachings and the rest, you definitely know that we are going around in circles and we have to get our acts right.
Amadin, would like to know exactly how the group affects the communities in Sokoto and the neighboring states. How exactly do they operate? What brought them to note?
Okay, first of all, the modus operandi is simple. It's one, they don't change it. But why this could be possible was the breakdown in diplomatic relations between Nigeria, Niger, and Niger, because the military said that this group came from Niger Republic. They have been existing. So what is their modus operandi? They come in under the guise of religion, deceiving the people that they are here to push religion. And this part of the country being very, very religious, what you get is that the people embrace them. And now when they now have a foothold, they have adherents, they have faithful who are following them, then they begin to show their true color. And by the time they bring out arms, they begin to put levies on communities. You have to tax them because they need to survive. So you have to pay so and so amount of money before you can go to your farms. You don't practice so and so religion. Anybody that preaches or does anything outside our own gospel is an enemy. So they begin to attack opposing religions or alternate religious adherents. So that is their own modus operandi. And before you know it, because they have recruited a lot of youth, you see this area is bulging with youth. We have a high youth bulge. They give them arms and then they now begin to use them for their sinister motive. Unfortunately, by the time the military has discovered that they exist, they already have a foothold in the area and they already have a stranglehold on the citizens. So the military will now have to begin to try to flush them out using boots on the ground and using military means.
Amadin, besides just, counterterrorism from our armed forces, I'd like to talk about more intelligence on the group. Were they able to share with the press during this briefing more intelligence on them, the crowd, their size, their ammunition, what their aim is? Because we know Boko Haram and different type of terrorism group, when they come out, they seem to have an aim. What's Lukarawa? What is their aim? What's their goal? And where's their stronghold or their foothold?
Now, like what the Director of Defense Media Operations said, usually these briefings are not briefings to tell you about military strategy and to just expose their intelligence. They only inform you that this is what they know and this is what... Now, one thing was very clear in his briefing, that operations against this group has already started. That means that the military has begun to engage them. And for the military to engage you, that means there's a form of resistance. So it is very clear that they already have fighters. But the Director of Defense Media Operations stated very clearly that the good thing is that it is not difficult to identify them. He said because one of the core tenets of this group is that you have to keep long beards. When you wear trousers, your trousers are not full length, according to what we call jump up in Nigerian parlance. And then he said their dressing is unique. So it is not difficult to identify that these are members of this terrorist sect. But like he said, it was the same strategy. They came into convincing the people that they were preaching religion, convincing the people that they were a religious organization, and they were preaching a certain doctrine that will make them more pious. And by the time the people embraced them, by the time youths had flocked into their fold, that was when they began to show their true colors, which is arm these youths, put taxes on communities, force farmers to pay certain levies before they can go to farms and harvest their crops.
Amadin, we seem to have a bit of a confusion regarding the pronunciation, the exact name, if it's Lukarawas or Lakurawas. There are many different media outfits giving a different name. The army chief actually called it Lakurawas, and in different media prints we are seeing Lakarawas. So if you could give us just a hint of what it might be, what it might mean, and how local authorities have been dealing with them from the past before the army stepped in.
Please, the last question.
Yes, I was asking for the correct pronunciation, if it's Lakurawas or Lukarawas, and also how the army, or rather how local leaders had been dealing with them before the army's taking note of the terrorist group.
Now, the director called them Lakarawas. Lakarawas. He said that they came from Niger, that because of that breakdown of communication and diplomatic relations, I remember that Niger had pulled out of ECOWAS, and Niger used to be a member of the multinational joint task force, where there used to be this military formation or unit that patrols the borders and tries to maintain some sort of sanity. So by the time Niger pulled out of the ECOWAS arrangement, it automatically
We're enjoying that. I'm hoping that we can get Amadin back to continue with that explanation, because that seemed very, very interesting. I never thought that the breakdown of order in Niger, well, not breakdown because it's actually a military rule now, but you'd think that that would actually make things, on the other hand, it would make a flow of everything bad from there coming into Nigeria, and with the lack of security at our borders, you can imagine what that would mean for the Nigerian side.
And I think that was also one of the reasons that informed the border closure during the Muhammadu Buhari regime, which was the proliferation of small arms and Boko Haram. When we saw that in 2019, 2018, thereabout.
Amadin Uyi is back. Amadin, if you're back, you were saying something very interesting regarding the borders and the inflow of these groups into Nigeria. Please, if you'd continue.
Okay, by the time Niger Republic pulled out of the arrangement with ECOWAS, Niger was an active member of the multinational joint task force. So what we had was that because they had pulled out, the borders became porous and vulnerable. And because that arrangement of the multinational joint task force was responsible for patrolling the border area and responsible for maintaining some sort of sanity, stopping the influx of small arms and light weapons, stopping the crossing of terrorists from one country into another. So it became porous. So they were able to use that advantage and use that benefit to move into Nigeria, into the northwestern region of the country. And like I said, they always come.
Amadin, are you saying that they're Nigerians, or rather they're Nigerians, not Nigerians? Or are they Nigerians who have indoctrinated Nigerians and are growing the sect here in Nigeria? What's the origin exactly, geographically?
They are a Nigerian terrorist sect, not a Nigerian religious organization. So they infiltrated into Nigeria because of the porous security situation. And they came, first of all, with the guys that they were preaching the gospel and they wanted to get adherents to their faith. So they are not originally a Nigerian-based or Nigerian-bred terrorist group, unlike Boko Haram. They are a Nigerian terrorist group that came into Nigeria, but first of all, under the guise of a religious organization. And because they came as a religious organization, the faithful in the Northwest embraced them and did not inform the military that these new people have come to set base in Nigeria. In fact, they had already established a foothold and a stronghold on the lives of citizens in the Northwest before the Nigerian military, through intelligence, got the information that something was amiss in the Northwest region. By this time, youths had already been armed. They had begun taxing and levying local communities and stopping farmers and forcing farmers to pay certain levies before they can access their farms.
And I'm so glad we're bringing up, farm, because we're going to be talking about food insecurity pretty shortly. So to wrap up this conversation, what has been the effect, besides just the farmers and the farmlands, what are some other effects when it comes to security and insecurity in those regions that the army has found them?
Now, the responsibility of the army is to protect the territorial integrity. Then they have other responsibilities which can be given to them by the Nigerian state or the commander-in-chief, which is also ending terrorism. So now you have a group of people who they already have fighters. They are already levying farmers. These are poor farmers who depend solely on farming. And they have to, sometimes communities are ordered to pay as much as 20 million naira. How many farmers are in those communities that if you don't pay these monies, you will be killed? We have had instances of farmers being killed and beheaded by Boko Haram in the northeast, fishermen in the Baga area being killed by ISIS, ISWAP, because they do not have monies to pay these levies. So you have an already impoverished population who are trying their best to just do everything to survive. And then you now have a group that tells them, before we allow you to go to your farms, everybody in this village has to pay the sum of 20 million naira. And then the farmers, those who defy these directives, by the time they go to their farms, they are killed. And then when they are killed, to set an example to others, you now have communities running helter-skelter, trying to take loans to be able to settle this group so that they can live their normal lives. So you see, this is why the military had to come in. And by the time they came in, they now realized that this was not the regular Boko Haram we are fighting. This is not the regular ISWAP we are fighting. These are not the regular bandits that try to create chiefdoms and fiefdoms in this area. This is a new sect, terrorist sect, using terrorism to oppress the people and trying to force them to live their lives in a way that is unconstitutional and illegal. So you see, the impact resonates around the country, because down from the south, where food is brought from the north, the cost of food will go up, and then there is scarcity of food because these farmers cannot take their food and crops to the market. By the time they even succeed in taking it to the market, the prices have tripled or have doubled because they have to factor in the monies paid as levies and taxes. So you see, it's not just a Northwest problem or a Northern problem, it's a Nigerian problem, because those in Lagos, living along the coastlines of Lagos, those living in the Niger Delta, in the Port Harcourt, the Calabar, the Akwa Ibom area, those people in the north, in the southwest, and in the southeast will have to pay these levies that the farmers are being forced to pay to the terrorist sect.
I'm so glad the way you just painted out this picture and put out this map. It's very, very important, and it's very clear that we make people understand that this is not a Northeast issue. This is a Nigerian problem, and it has a ripple effect on the entire nation. And that's the best way to wrap up this conversation. Amadine, many thanks for doing this with us. We appreciate you for coming on. Amadine Uyi is News Central's Abuja Bureau Chief, as well as correspondent who brought us that news report, and we appreciate him for coming on. You're watching Breakfast Extra here on News Central TV. We'll take a short break, and we come back on the other side. Mazino is on standby to bring you the headline news. Stay here.
Welcome, and it's time for the headline news. My name is Mazino Appeal. Now, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu will be heading to Saudi Arabia today to attend the Joint Arab Islamic Summit in Riyadh. The summit, which starts on Monday, will focus on the Middle East situation. Tinubu was invited by King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He'll address the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, calling for an immediate ceasefire and peaceful resolution. Nigeria will advocate for a two-state solution for lasting peace. The president will be joined by officials like the Foreign Affairs Minister, National Security Advisor, and others. Away from that, political parties and candidates in Ondo State have signed a peace accord ahead of the 16th November governorship election. The signing, which took place on Friday at the International Culture and Event Center in Akure, the state capital, was organized by the National Peace Committee, headed by former head of state Abdulsalam Abubakar. Some of the parties present at the signing of the peace accord include the All Progressives Congress, People's Democratic Party, Labour Party, Action Democratic Party, and Zenith Labour Party, among others.
I hope of the Nigerian Peace Committee that Ondo State elections will be free, fair, credible, and peaceful. And every one of us to ensure that we will maintain the peace in the country. Because if there is no peace, there is no country.
The National Peace Committee accepted our request to devolve the signing of the peace accord beyond the presidential election to include off-cycle governorship elections in view of the tension and sometimes violence associated with these elections in the past.
Ondo State has been a peaceful state. In fact, even during this campaign, it's been peaceful. And you don't enjoy this in most states when election is almost about a week to the D-Day. But today we are enjoying relative peace.
Now, nearly 2,000 flood-affected families in Borno State have received aid from the Nigerian Society of Red Cross in collaboration with the International Federation of Red Cross. News Central's Umaru Kirawa reports that the relief items provided include financial assistance of 100,000 naira per household, as well as essential items such as mosquito nets, blankets, and buckets. These provisions are expected to improve the living conditions of flood victims who have been displaced by the recent devastating floods in the state.
A lot of things in the back, of which it will help them and their families to at least live a better life after the flood.
Muna fama dai rayuwa sai godiya alhamdulillah mun dan fara dan gyare-gyaren mu dai. Insha Allah, Allah ya taimaka mun gode, Allah ya saka da alkhairi.
Gashi mun samu 100,000 da bokitin mu da kayan mu a bako, abu da yawa ne a ciki. Ya ma yawa ma ka irga ma dan abun ya fa sai godiya kawai ba abun fada.
Meanwhile, Kano State Governor Abba Yusuf has visited the gully erosion site and pledged to address the environmental challenges affecting the Gayawa community to improve the lives of people in the area. In a statement issued on Saturday, the governor's spokesperson, Sanusi Tofa, said the governor made the pledge during a visit to the site on Friday. Yusuf stated that the visit marked a new chapter in the journey to address the persistent environmental challenges that have plagued the community of Bulbula Guyawa in Ungugu local government area, also impacting parts of Nasarawa and Fage local government areas for decades. And in more news, Togo, Guinea-Bissau, Gambia and Côte d'Ivoire have pledged to support Nigeria's bid for a permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council. This was revealed by Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs following his visit to the four nations as part of a shuttle diplomacy effort expected to boost ties and cooperation in several areas sectors. Now, Amadine Uyi reports.
It was an opportunity to update Nigerians on the visit to four key West African nations by the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga.
We embarked recently on some shuttle diplomacy to Togo, to Guinea-Bissau, Gambia, and Côte d'Ivoire. And we did so in Nigeria's capacity as chair of the ECOWAS heads of state and government. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the current chair.
The minister says that the meeting was an opportunity to boost regional cohesion in an increasing multipolar world. He says that Nigeria has sought their support in its quest to get a United Nations Security Council seat, which received support from the countries.
Everywhere we went, we also had the opportunity to discuss and solicit support for Nigeria's intention to become a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council, because this is something that is a hot topic at the moment.
He says that the visit also opened opportunities for Nigerian banks, as a formal request was made for them to come establish their branches in their countries. He says pledges were also made to support Nigeria's candidates seeking a seat at the International Court of Justice. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
In East Africa, devastating floods in South Sudan has affected around 1.4 million people, with more than 379,000 displaced, according to a United Nations update that warned about an upsurge in malaria. Aid agencies have said that the world's youngest country, highly vulnerable to climate change, is in the grips of its worst flooding in decades, mainly in the north. The United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said about 1.4 million people were affected by floods in 43 countries and the disrupted Abyei region, which is claimed by both South Sudan and Sudan. And in more news, Somalia has insisted on Saturday that Ethiopia will be part of a new African Union peacekeeping mission as the two nations remain locked in a dispute that has sent shivers through the Horn of Africa. African Union troops have been engaged in the fight against al-Shabaab's jihadists in Somalia since 2007, with the aim of eventually handing over security responsibility to national forces. The current AU force in Somalia, known as ATMIS, ATMIS, which includes about 3,000 Ethiopian troops, is due to wrap up at the end of the year to be replaced by a revamped mission called ASSOM, AUSSOM. And we've still got more news for you, but this time from Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso's Foreign Minister Karamoko Jean-Marie Touré has emphasized that Russia's partnership suits his country better than its historic ties with France. Since the 2022 military coup, Burkina Faso's new leadership has distanced itself from Paris and turned to Moscow, which has provided military instructors to support Ouagadougou's battle against an Islamist insurgency. Speaking at the Russia-Africa Summit in Sochi, Touré praised Russia as a partner with whom we can make progress, end of quote, and expressed confidence, saying there is no fear of military dependency on Moscow.
And you're welcome back to Breakfast Extra. It's time for us to get into our very first big story for today. And it's about a troubling prediction that paints a bleak picture for Nigeria's future food security. The World Food Programme has warned that by 2025, a staggering 133 million Nigerians may face severe food insecurity, rising prices, climate change challenges, and growing insecurity in critical agricultural regions. They're all exacerbating an already very fragile situation. Now, with the cost of living soaring and millions struggling to afford daily meals, this prediction isn't just a number, it's a wake-up call. But what are the root causes driving us towards this crisis? And are there steps we can take to prevent it? So to help us navigate these pressing questions and to answer our questions, we're joined by African farmer Magaji, a leading food security expert who will shed light on the path forward and what this means for Nigerians most vulnerable. We're all very vulnerable at this time. So Magaji, thank you so much. Should I say Mr. African farmer?
Yeah,
Magaji?
African farmer.
There we go. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, before I even get into the report, it's very interesting that this might just be the tone for our conversation within the first hour and second hour about food insecurity. And when we're talking to our correspondent earlier on about a new group, terrorist group, and talking about how they were holding farmers ransom and holding their farmlands ransom to now add to climate change, how dire is the situation?
We're in a very challenging situation, and we need to think fast and act precise, because if not, all through this year, we've had climate challenges that has hindered our food production. So as we sit here to speak today, 2025 is under huge threats, very huge one. So it's something that we really need to wake up. Government, private sector, NGOs, religious organizations, is everybody now. If not, 2025 may be a big challenge, bigger than what we've seen ever.
Your work is pretty much raising the alarm. You've been calling to action. You've been doing this for years. I have known you since 2019. I know people who've known you longer. Your videos have gone viral. You've granted interviews, both local and international. And this prediction by what you're saying in this report is not new to you.
Yes, not new.
So with your persistent call to action, why has there not been any change so far?
Well, I've interacted with government officials at the highest level, private sector, developmental partners, but there seems to be a challenge right now. You know, the economy is getting hit, and so before something happens in the economy, it's a collapse of power. So there's always something happening, but we really need to focus on food, because other sectors can still thrive, but without the food is a challenge. So what needs to happen, what I need to see happen, is for us to have a vision. It's for us to say, we want to drop the price of food by X tonnage. We want to produce this amount. That is not in place in the media space. At the ministries, you have those documents, but the citizens don't know how to work with government to achieve these goals. So we need to have some media pally. We need to have these conversations out and to be able to, most importantly, push out opportunities in adversity. We're focusing too much on the adversity. 133 million, yes, it's a big challenge. It's something to be concerned about. But how we should try to solve it is not by focusing on the problem, but by showing Nigerians how much will be made on tractor usage, how much seeds will be needed, the billions of naira available to Nigerians, that if Nigerians don't embrace, foreigners are already embracing it. It is the how that we are missing. And until we get the how, no foreigner is here to save Nigeria. Everybody is here to milk money, put little investment. They don't put in permanent infrastructure, their portfolio. So it's the how that we have not gotten right. It's how to engage the youth that we have not really gotten sustainable models. Bottom line is that we're not getting it together.
So I think the million-dollar question should then be, how can we get it right? You know what I mean? Because is it that the policies, because I mean, you talked about policies of the government, are they losing direction? Is it, what exactly, how can we get it right? Just pinpoint it down for us from the part of the government, the media, and citizens.
First and first, government needs to engage the private sector more. Government, both the private sector and the developmental partners, we need to sit down as partners and say, this is how we are going, and say, this is available for you. And this probably are the tax reliefs we'll give to you, or we will give you C of O for these lands. We need to engage them for a tailored focus. Like I said, we don't have enough beef, okay? We want to produce X kg or tons of beef this time next year, November 10, 2025, and this is the opportunity you have. Take it or we give it to foreigners. That is not on the table currently. Okay? Then again, people will talk about security. Business people take risk. Okay, so currently the people who are taking the risk are the people who are making the money in the producing the food. Tomato is not, well, tomato is imported. Some of the tomatoes are imported, but at least 70% of it is produced locally. Yeah. Yam is not imported. Cassava to gari to fufu to akpu is not imported. Most of our staples are not imported. So we need to drive that policy and let the private sector ride on it. That is missing currently. And I will say this, there are too many lands available in each state of the Federation. I've traveled a bit around, at least all regions. There are lands that can be unlocked, lands without trees that we need to produce. Like, take for instance, dry season is coming in now. Okay, I've been in the dry season irrigation space for 29 years. And I can tell you that we are not even embracing this opportunity. Floods have taken a lot from us. Now we need to leverage the flood, because now we can cultivate the land, even if it's to prepare to ensure that the tomato scarcity we had in 2024 will not happen in 2025. We're not working together. It's championing, and I will say this. I believe, without any doubt, that we have leadership at federal level willing to take tough decisions. But I've not seen, I've not seen others ride on this opportunity that the federal is willing, especially the states. Food security in Nigeria has nothing to do with federal. Nothing, zero. We operate a system like the United States. I'm trained in U.S. foreign policy and food security in the U.S. And each state is independent like the states in the U.S. Yes. Each state has a comparative advantage. We're not seeing the states in Nigeria bring out their comparative advantage. We're seeing states talk about federal. All states have collected fertilizers, huge trailers of fertilizers. Okay? The states that don't have so much lands are performing better than the ones that have lands. So it's the states we need to focus on. It's the state governors that need to talk to each other. We have regional programs. You see Southwest, South. Yeah. You know, there's a governor in charge of each region. How come we're not working together? I have said this time and time again. How come Ogun and Oyo State are not producing rice, paddy, to feed the Immortal rice mill? How come it's Niger and Kebbi that is trying to produce rice, and the people in Oyo are poor? The people in Ogun are poor. I've lived in those places spanning some over a decade, some 2 decades. Most of my operations are there. So the farmers need markets. There is a market in Lagos. How come the state governor in Ogun and Oyo are not paying attention to that opportunity? So that means it's focused then, because if you're saying that it has to start from the state level,
the governors of those states and the commissioners for agriculture for those states, it's all about what their key focus is, right? And what should be priority for the state. And it seems that agriculture is not priority, right? Or food insecurity or food security is not so much on the list of priority. I think that if there's a list, it will be flipped over at the bottom of the list. That's where you're going to find, food security. But something you mentioned is flooding. And climate change is one of the key contributing factors that was mentioned in this report that would drive 133 Nigerians into a food insecurity bracket. How are we equipped for that? There's a lot of talk about, converting from, fossil fuel. There's a lot of talk about trying to do more, but it all seems to be lip service, is it?
You see, there's a lot of conversation around this fossil fuel. It's not for us. We've not gotten
Someone's finally said it.
We have not gotten there.
I'm tired of this.
All the developed countries talking and championing fossil fuel are food secure. They have, I am confident, I saw the data, we saw the silos. The US does not need soya grain or maize grain for 10 straight years if there's no rain. They have the reserves. Okay, so we are not at that level. Then, you see, we have river basins. We have dams. In this, Netherlands, the biggest dam in Netherlands, okay? It's not as, the smallest dam in Nigeria is bigger than the biggest dam in Netherlands, okay? And so if Netherlands is a major exporter of most of the vegetables, how come with our dams underutilized, not bringing in that kind of amount? It's a function that flood is not necessarily a challenge. Planning and implementation is a challenge of Nigeria.
Right.
Why? Because when it floods, there's a route. There's a route the water flows through. So they call it lowland, and there's upland. So you can grow, when we already know, NIMET has been warning us since January. We start planting in April. So what the state, and I'm going to be narrowing down states.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to do that.
What the states ought to do is to engage the farmers to grow more early on the lowland, which you can utilize water. But when it comes to like June, July, to move upland. Upland is where no matter the flood, it does not affect it. And in every state, you will see green uncultivated land, not lands with trees, lands that tractors can work on. So the state government are not efficiently using the resources they have. I stand to be corrected. I will any state, I will talk about local government locations that the governors need to wake up and ensure that their people are food secure. Right now, food security is a nice to have for most state governors, not a must have. Now, and I will exempt Lagos. I always like to exempt Lagos because in terms of infrastructure, Lagos is creating in K2 in Ukpe a very massive warehousing for foods that should be wasting in Nasarawa, in Ebonyi, so that there's a market. But we're not producing to feed those markets. Lagos is opening markets all here and there, ultra-modern markets. The foods are not coming because it's not enough. What I'm saying is the comparative advantage of Lagos is infrastructure. And Lagos is building. No state is building like Lagos. But the food, when these things are completed, with the hope that the states also will produce and empower their farmers to be sustainable and rich, it's not likely to happen.
There's a population problem as well. We have to talk about it. Our population is rising, whether we like it or not. People are having children, and especially in an economic downturn, people still want more children. It's mind-boggling, but we move on. People want to have more kids, right?
Yes.
133 Nigerians will face food insecurity challenges. Do you think that number is small?
Oh, it's check
Are
that
they being
data.
conservative with the numbers?
So I'll say two things. One, that is not it's not a data for Nigeria.
Right, yes, it wasn't.
It's a data for a region.
Yeah, for sub-Saharan Africa.
Southwest is not part of it. You know, we think Southwest is food secure. Southwest is the most food insecure region in the country because that's where you find the most expensive food. So that data is conservative. However, I also doubt that data. People won't talk about it.
Why is it?
Now, how come it's always northeast, 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 year out? There's that data on northeast, northeast, northeast. How come FAO is not looking at other regions? Like I said, I'm trained in U.S. foreign policy and food security, and I understand also international food politics.
Speaking of international, and I'm glad we're starting this conversation this way, because if you're saying that it's, I mean, when we look at all the reporting, you're correct, and honestly, I will be fair, and you know, unfortunately, the cons of my job is to be fair, is that the Northeast oftentimes is always being projected, right, when we put out this report, whether it's malnutrition, whether it's mental health, whether it's, you know, education, whether it's a number of children out of school. Yeah. It is normally fixated on the North. Do you think it's because of terrorism?
No.
Why? So why the hyperfixation? It
was designed that way about 40, 50 years ago. These are things people don't talk on. Now, it was designed to get developmental partners to fund. And that's why when we had the last hunger protest, we had a lot of challenges in the North.
Right.
And the Northern leaders are now saying, we need to address this narrative. Now, so it was easier for leadership before to just say, oh, we're not food secure, there's unemployment, there's child this, child that. However, these dynamics are changing. They are producing more. Insecurity has actually reduced. That's the real truth. On the farms in the North, it has reduced.
Yeah, because
now it is fear that is keeping the farmers, justifiably so. Fear.
Glad you said that.
But the activity of terrorists has reduced.
What? How do you know it's reduced? What's the metric to say it's reduced? How would you...
More farmers are going to the farms now. That's practical truth. People like to amplify what is not working. My job as a food security expert is to tell the truth. So we have more logistics challenge now. Bringing the foods from the north to the south to the east is what is making food not available. The cost is really going high. Now, I'm not saying that insecurity, you know, is not a challenge. It is still a challenge. But I'm saying what it was 3 years ago, 2 years ago is not what it is now. And if we're not careful, the sons and daughters of the farmers who are not engaged may find this terrorism also appealing.
Well, isn't it?
Yes, may find it appealing because of the frustration we can't farm. That's what we know how to do. That's what we've been trained to do. So you are vulnerable when you are doing nothing.
I'm glad you just said something, right? The frustration with the subsidized, sorry, what's the word now I'm looking for? The type of subsistence farming that we're doing now, right? The frustration with that would drive them into other vices instead of going through that long, sometimes not rewarding process that it is. So do you think that because our sector, the agricultural sector, has not been mechanized and, you know, sort of there's no more introduction with technology, not so much is happening in terms of that, is one of the reasons why we're seeing these numbers and this projection for food insecurity?
Yes, so Nigeria does a lot of production. Nigeria does not have productivity per acre of land, per football field of land, which is 2.5 acres or 1 hectare. We do not have productivity. We have production. We have activity. We are tilling the soil, but we're not getting the best out of the soil. And in terms of efficiency, we're not efficient. When I mean efficiency is tomatoes has no business moving from north to the south. We need those tomatoes to be processed into puree, paste, ketchup, and move finished products. It is the South that should be producing the fresh tomatoes that they consume. And this is not rocket science. Even in the United States, America is number 5 when it comes to processed tomatoes, the one you process for foods. And they are also a major importer of tomato too. They import tomato from Mexico, you know, and give them corn and soya. Nigeria is not exchanging anything officially. I mean, government to government, right, with Benin, with Togo. We're not exchanging. These are where we need policy drives. Where Nigeria would say, Niger would need 100,000 metric tons of rice, so we'll produce rice for them. They need this cassava, we'll produce it for them. We are not taking that action as federal now. This is not state now. As federal to say we need to take care of Benin to earn dollars. And even the states also need to say, oh, okay, we identify that in this period in the year, there's no tomato in Burkina Faso. Now, so we will produce tomato from Ogun and sell to the government of Burkina Faso. We are not seeing the opportunities. Agric is still subsistence for our leaders. Most of the governors don't believe in the technology. And when they want to bring in the technology, they bring technology that cannot be adapted here. They copy what is in Europe and paste in Nigeria, forgetting that we are very peculiar people.
Mr. African farmer, yeah. I have to ask you, right? Increased productivity will mean food prices will hike, wouldn't it?
No, we mean the price will come down. It
will come. Okay, so when you're talking about, because you know, I'm thinking about this and I'm trying to understand this in terms of increased productivity will mean the foods will now be canned. You're turning tomatoes to puree. You're doing of that. That means more in production for that finished goods. Yes. And that would also in somewhat mean increase, right? Yes. Can Nigerians afford that?
No. So when we have productivity and we are not selling commodity is tomato. When we don't add value, okay, the processors need to produce more and store. What that does is you find it more economically rewarding. So you have more people move inside and specialize. And so when they specialize, prices will come down. There will be competition. Take, for instance, rice that Nigeria has been trying since General Gowon's days. You know, I have read every initiative since General Gowon to this administration. Every administration has been trying to make Nigeria rice secure. If we've not been able to do that over the years, it means we're not doing something right. Even rice value chain. Let me say rice. All we focus on is the rice we consume. There is the white rice that they do in Niger, that they turn to tuwo. We don't produce rice for tuwo. Basmati rice is premium. That's where the farmers will make a lot of money. We are not planting basmati rice. What stops us from planting basmati rice? So we need to do basmati rice. We need to do other types of rice. We need to move from commodity to brands.
Commodity to brands. We're pressed for time. I could continue non-stop if you let me, but I have to ask. In farming, what is one crop? Like, what are some crops? Because I know that this projection was for the lean period between June and August of 2025. In that time bracket, what are some crops? I understand that that's a planting season.
Yes. Right,
the planting season, which is the lean season, right? And so there are some crops that are now susceptible to the climate change. What is a projected crops that would suffer during that time, and what would it mean for the price of those food in the market?
So let me say this. Every crop suffers. Every and any crop that is staple to us
my potato
suffers around that time. Any crop. Now, what affects the price, which is what many people don't know, is interventions. Interventions of government affect the pricing. Okay? And we have less farmers. About 95% of our farmers cannot engage in irrigation. They cultivate more under rain-fed. So bottom line is that we don't have farmers trained to engage in dry season farming. This year now, we need to sound an alarm that we need a lot of trainings to engage youths and farmers to farm any river, any stream that does not dry off, any swamp that dries in the dry season. This year, Nigeria, in the history of Nigeria in the last 64 years, 2024, 2025 needs to be the biggest year that will be focusing on dry season farming. Because if we don't, we will not be able to meet those prices. And the prices next year, with what I'm seeing, is going to be bigger than the 200,000 for the tomato basket. It is likely to be worse based on climate, the mapping of the climate. And just for your listeners, okay, what happened to Nigeria last year and what is going to happen to Nigeria in 2025 is not new. It has happened in California just to help government or private sector, where in a 5-year period, the weather, climate began to change until it peaked where there was no rain. You will have like the whole year rain, just 1 month. Nigeria is moving there. It may get to the peak in 2025, but there is also solution.
That is, solution-based journalism. That's all about. That's all I'm about. Solution-based journalism, right? So call to action in terms of solution, because whenever I think of the flooding in Borno State, and I think of that water that flooded that town in Maiduguri, and I juxtapose it to what is coming in the coming months, which is the Harmattan period, right? My brain just cannot handle that all that water has gone, because then it would have been used for irrigation farming. It would have been stored for the coming dry season. Because now it's almost like you're a doomsday conspirator, but it is true. The dry seasons are coming. The rains will stop. There will be times where we would wait for the rain and pray for the rain. Humidity will be on high and the farms cannot take it, right? What then is the solution? Is it that we need more political will to be able to do the right thing? We need experts, and when it comes to the Ministry of Agriculture, commissioners at the MDA level, is it that the government needs to put this as priority number 1 on the list? What is it?
One is, it's a wake-up. We need a wake-up call for the governors. 2, we need the federal government to raise an alarm and give direction, not talk. We need direction. We need to produce X, Y in these locations, the locations that are available. But most importantly, we need to get the experts who have paid the dues that know these things to champion this cause. What has always been missing is implementation. We have always not been implementing. I stopped profiling solutions on media, I mean deep solutions, because when you profile the solutions, they never say, oh, come, can you share more on this? They take the surface, the cocktail of solution you give, forgetting that cocktail has many things. They take it and run with it. And at the end of the day, it becomes a disaster. Wasted resources, misdirection, So bottom line is we just talk surface so that we do not come into bigger problem. Because next thing will be, we are banning this, we are banning that, because you provide a solution that does not require a ban. So, and it happens at state, federal. So bottom line is, most experts now, because we talk, will mislead government when you give a narrow solution, because the people who handle this information will not say, oh, there are a few people we need to call to the table. They will try to implement it. And when they now run into muddy water, they start to call you.
Well,
but there's hope.
Is there? Because that's the question I was going to ask.
Let me say this. If I have always been saying this, we do not need more than 6 months to be food secure in at least 4 basic staples. 6 months. Less than 6 months. Every of the staple matures in 4 months. And so what that means is that we can produce 2 times.
Yes.
Especially in this dry season, productivity, seed and co. So there's hope. It's just that the people, we need to break this challenge down into projects and programs. not a national conversation. Project, we want to produce fresh corn January, February, March. We want to produce tomatoes. This is our population. This is that data that, 133 million is an opportunity. We need to stop seeing crisis. Federal government needs to stop seeing crisis. The approach is crisis. Let's cushion down the effect. No, it's opportunity. Raise the opportunity alarm more than you are sounding the bell for crisis or poverty, palliative. No. It's opportunity. 133 million. In fact, I'll do the calculation and come back. I'll call you. I'll come back here to break it down on the opportunities for Nigerians. That I can promise you.
No, that's and we're taking you up on that open invitation. But African Farmer Magaji, I want to say thank you so much for this very insightful, eye-opening conversation, and also as well as informative for us. Now, it's pretty much where we draw the curtain on this discussion, and this is also the call to the government as well to make sure that we start to please just send an invite to African Farmer Magaji and let him come to the roundtable, and also private sector on the roundtable to have this discussion. Is where we draw the curtains in this conversation. You're watching Breakfast Extra on News Central Television. I am Judith. The TV. Coming up next is the sports news. And don't worry, Mazino is on standby to bring you the headline news as well at the top of the hour. And afterwards, it'll be time for our Weekend Warrior. Stay here.
And you're welcome. It's time for our Weekend Warrior segment. And this week, well, it's a very interesting one. This weekend, we pay tribute to a remarkable leader whose dedication to the defense of Nigeria and its people will never be forgotten. Major General Taoreed Lagbaja, the late Chief of Army Staff, was not just a soldier, but a true patriot whose life and service embodied strength, sacrifice, and an unwavering commitment to the nation. Now, throughout his distinguished career, Lagbaja stood solidly behind his troops, always leading from the front. His legacy as the Chief of Army Staff is marked by numerous achievements, not the least of which was his steadfast commitment to maintaining the integrity of Nigeria's armed forces amidst a myriad of challenges. Under his leadership, the Army achieved significant strides in operational readiness, counterterrorism efforts, and military modernization. He was known for fostering a culture of professionalism, discipline, and respect among the rank and attributes that solidified his position as a trusted leader. Now, Lagbaja's tenure wasn't without its challenges, but time and time again he met them with resilience, fortitude, and a steady hand. He led with a clear sense of purpose, ensuring that the Nigerian army was equipped and prepared for the evolving threats facing the nation, whether from internal insurgencies or external forces. His decisive actions and strategic vision helped steer the army through some of Nigeria's most difficult security crises. Perhaps one of the most memorable aspects of General Lagbaja's leadership was his fierce dedication to his soldiers, his consistently prioritizing their welfare, ensuring that they were well-equipped, well-trained, and ready for any task, all while understanding the sacrifices they made daily. His presence instilled confidence amongst his men, and his commitment to the nation's security was felt far and wide. So as we bid farewell to Major General Taoreed Lagbaja, we do so with gratitude and admiration for his unparalleled service. He leaves behind a legacy of courage, selflessness, and an unwavering love for his country. His contributions to Nigeria's defense and security cannot be overstated, and his absence will be felt deeply across the nation and among his troops as well. So thank you very much, General Lagbaja, for your service, your leadership, and your tireless efforts in ensuring the safety and security of this great nation. You'll be remembered as a warrior, a leader, and a patriot. May your soul rest in peace, and may your legacy continue to inspire generations of soldiers who follow in your footsteps. Farewell, sir, and thank you for everything. Indeed, that's our Weekend Warrior position, none other than for the late Taoreed Lagbaja, Major General, by the way. Thank you very much. And as it is always the case here for Breakfast Extra, it's about time for us to bring you some sports, and I'm ready to do that for you. No, actually, I kid. We've got the delectable Onyechi in the house. Onye, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Mazino. I would have loved it if you would take that burden off my shoulders.
I could, but I'm rusty. I'm very bad. It's been 20 years since.
Really?
Yeah, 20 years.
Well, you can try.
Genesis from sports broadcasting, actually.
Then you can try. We can do this together.
Let's do no, don't. No.
All right, it's all good. Let's go into the world of sport at this time. Canopilas moved 4th position in the Nigeria Premier Football League following a 1-0 away win against Bendel Insurance. Rabiu Ali scored the winning goal from the penalty spot deep into stoppage time. It was Ali's 6th goal in the MPFL this season. Canopilas have now won twice on the road in the current campaign. Everywhere there in Latvia, we saw another game between Dan and the Mokochi's Lobby Stars rallied from a goal down to beat Abia Warriors 3-1. The visitors went in front through Sunday Megwar in the 56th minute. Lobby Stars fought back through goals from Shegun Olorutobi, and also we've got them scoring a brace by Sunday Naji. At this time, the Nigeria Premier Football League table is having a little bit of shake-up. You can see there Remo Stars having to lead the table with 21 points. Rivers United following behind Remo Stars. This time on goal difference, they sit with the same point, sharing the same point, 21 at 1-2 position. Aimba, who Mazino says is his favorite club, of course, have 18 points, sitting at 3rd position. Canopilas have now gone to 4th position after that win against Bendel Insurance. After decades of playing Bendel Insurance at home, Canopilas now get their first win. The top 10 in the Nigeria Premier Football League sees Remo Stars, Rivers United, Aimba, Canopilas, El Kanemi Warriors, Rangers International, the defending champions, Plateau United, Niger Tornadoes, Abia Warriors, and Sunshine Stars. Moving away from that to Europe, the English Premier League is bubbling. Manchester City slumped to a 4th consecutive defeat after blowing the lead to lose 2-1 at Brighton and Hove Albion, allowing Liverpool to move 5 points clear on the top of the Premier League standings with a 2-0 win against Aston Villa on Saturday. City had not suffered defeat in the league for nearly a year prior to this losing against Bournemouth last weekend. But after also exiting the League Cup to Tottenham and being on the end of a 4-1 thrashing by Sporting Lisbon in the UEFA Champions League, Pep Guardiola has lost 4 straight matches for the first time in his illustrious managerial career. On the other hand, Liverpool, they won 9 of the 11 league games in a breathtaking start on the new manager Arne Slot, who has got Salah playing in top form against Aston Villa. Salah set up Nunez after a fast breakaway in the 20th minute and scored himself another counter-attack in the 84th minute for his 10th goal of the season. Trent Alexander-Arnold went off injured for Liverpool in the first half, but that could not deter them. Meanwhile, Fulham's superb start to the Premier League season continued with a 2-0 win over Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. Goals from Emil Smith-Rowe and substitute Harry Wilson lifts the Outages up into the Premier League top 6, and that was just a good reward for them for another fine performance on the road. The Premier League standings for the top 6 at the moment is Liverpool, Manchester City at the top of the table. Liverpool right now leading 5 points clear of Manchester City. Pep Guardiola has got a lot of questions to answer. Moving away from that, something has happened to a black American. Yes, of course, in the world of tennis, for the WTA final, for the first time ever, Coco Korigov has become the youngest player to win the WTA final title in 20 years after a grueling 3-6, 6-4, 7-6 victory over Olympic champion Zheng Guwen in Riyadh on Saturday. So the 20-year-old Gulf rallied back 3-6, 1-3 down and erased a 1-break deficit twice in the decider to overcome her opponent, that's the 7th-seeded Zheng, in 3 hours and 4 minutes, the second longest WTA finals in 2024. By clinching the trophy, Gulf pocketed a record $48,500 which is the largest ever payout at a professional tournament sanctioned by a tour event. Gulf has knocked out the world's top 2 players, Aryna Sabalenka and Iga Swiatek, en route to the final, and picked up the 4th top 8 with that win in the week, with an impressive physical performances against Zheng. All right, we know that this news is bigger than what it seems. Mazino, this is Coco Korigov doing exactly, taking that step of Serena Williams. That time she was still a teenager in the world of tennis.
Tell you what, I do miss the days of Serena Williams. I do think that she was one of the best tennis players, whether you like it or not. But then again, it's good to see a new generation of different sort of people.
Indeed.
I especially love female tennis. It's always very fantastic to listen to watch. Let's take a break. Believe it or not, I'm still the same guy that will be bringing you the news. Stay tuned. We'll be back for Breakfast Extra. We'll be back soon. You're welcome. It's time for the news yet again. Now, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu will be heading to Saudi Arabia today to attend the Joint Arab-Islamic Summit in Riyadh. The summit, which starts on Monday, will focus on the Middle East situation. Tinubu was invited by King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He'll address the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, calling for an immediate ceasefire and peaceful resolution. Nigeria will advocate for a two-state solution for lasting peace. The president will be joined by officials like the Foreign Affairs Minister, National Security Advisor, and others. Moving on now, away from that, political parties and candidates in Ondo State have signed a peace accord ahead of the 16th November governorship election. The signing, which took place on Friday at the International Cultural Event Center in Akure, the state capital, was organized by the National Peace Committee, headed by former head of state Abdul Salam Abubakar. Some of the parties present at the signing of the peace accord include the All Progressives Congress, People's Democratic Party, Labour Party, Action Diplomatic Party, and Zenith Labour Party, among others.
The sincere hope of the Nigerian Peace Committee that on those state elections will be free, fair, credible, and peaceful. And every one of us to ensure that we will maintain the peace in the country. Because if there is no peace, there is no country.
The National Peace Committee accepted our request to devolve the signing of the peace accord beyond the presidential election to include off-cycle governorship elections in view of the tension and sometimes violence associated with these elections in the past.
Ondo State has been a peaceful state. In fact, even during this campaign, it's been peaceful. And you don't enjoy this in most states when election is almost about a week to the D-Day. But today we are enjoying relative peace.
Nearly 2,000 flood-affected families in Borno State have received aid from the Nigerian Society of Red Cross in collaboration with the International Federation of Red Cross. News Central's Umaru Kirawa reports that the relief items provided include financial assistance of 100,000 naira per household, as well as essential items such as mosquito nets, blankets, and buckets. These provisions are expected to improve the living conditions of flood victims who have been displaced by the recent devastating floods in the state.
In fact, a lot of things in the back, of which it will help them and their families to at least live a better life after the flood.
Muna fama dai rayuwa sai godiya alhamdulillah. Mun dan fara dan gyare-gyaren mu dai. Insha Allah, Allah ya taimaka, mun gode, Allah ya saka da alkhairi.
Gashi mun samu 100 da bokitin mu, da kayan mu a bako, abu da yawa ne a ciki. Ya ma yawa ma ka irga ma dan abun ya fa sai godiya kawai ba abun fada.
Our big story today is extra special. We turn our attention to the state of local governance, where recent elections have provided a shocking twist. In Abia State, the Labour Party, once a rising force on the national stage, failed to win a single seat in the local government elections, an unexpected setback for a party that has garnered considerable attention in the previous general elections. The party's loss is a glaring example of the challenges it faces at the grassroots levels, where less prominent parties have made significant gains. But this isn't just an Abia issue. The same trend is evident in other states like Rivers, where even established political parties are struggling to hold on to their dominance at the local level. So what's really happening? Are we witnessing the rise of new political forces, or is there something else at play?
So, ladies and gentlemen, to help us understand the implications of this political shift and explore what might be driving these results, we're joined today by two key guests, Mr. Ferdinand Ekioma, the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to Governor Alex Otti of Abia State. And also we have joining us Mr. Prince Ndubweze. Now, Mr. Prince Ndubweze is the acting chairman of the Labour Party in Abia State. Gentlemen, you are welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Once again for having us.
Yeah, good. Thank you. Mr. Ferdinand, let's start with you. The Labour Party's loss in Abia's LG elections was a surprise to many people. What do you think led to this unexpected outcome, especially after the party's strong showing in the last general elections?
Well, thank you once again. The loss, obviously, is predicated to the internal crisis that engulfed the party shortly after the leaders of the party came together and held that extended stakeholders meeting in Umuahia, where they resolved to set up a caretaker committee geared towards resolving the issues of leadership, especially at the national level. You will recall that shortly after that extended stakeholders meeting was held in Umuahia, which of course had the creme de la creme of the party, including Governor Alex Otti, the host, the former presidential candidate of the party, Mr. P2B, the vice presidential candidate, and other very distinguished and eminent leaders of the party. Immediately after the meeting, the former national chairman, Barrister Abure, okay, let me address him as the national chairman as a mark of respect to the law, to the judgment of the court. But then the former chairman, as he was then, and others came out and said, you know, they've dissolved just shortly after and rebuffed the leaders of the party for the decision they took. And a few days after, they now said they've dissolved the state working committee of the party in Abia. Of course, that was an affront. That was an illegal action. And it was done to create confusion and crisis and set a kind of a time bomb for us. And because of that crisis, a lot of individuals who were going to run, I mean, very capable, very, you know, known faces, people who had the capacity to win election, who were going to fly the flag of the Labour Party, got alarmed and said they wouldn't want to continue that election on the platform of Labour Party. That was why some of them crossed over to other political parties and contested the election. Yes, Labour Party, though, still presented candidates. The two factions of Labour Party still presented candidates. But because Governor Alex Otti, the leader of the party, the real structure of the party, the galvanizing force of the party in the state, you know, through his support behind those people that the majority of our people wanted, and of course, they won. So that was actually what happened. That was what affected the Labour Party in the state.
Mr. Ndubweze, I have to ask you, you are Labour Party's acting chairman in Abia. How do you also view the party's performance in this election? And do you have any, you know, reaction to the spokesperson for the state governor's statement, comments he just made?
My brother and my friend Ekoma,
We've lost your audio, sir. We're hoping that we can rectify that if you do not mind. I'm not sure if it's on your end, but let's hope that we can.
Hello.
Okay, we have you now. Well, I'm hoping that we have you now. No, we don't. So we're going to try and actually see if we can make sure that that connection is well, we'll get that resolved. Yeah.
Let me come to you, Mr. Ferdinand, and then just ask, right? Wouldn't it be if giving, you know, the contention within the state Labour Party level in Abia State and all that's going on, shouldn't still the number one citizen in the state, Mr. Alex Otti, still throw his weight behind Labour Party at the grassroots level?
Mr. Ferdinand,
yes. I couldn't hear you again.
All right. I was asking that with all the contention that's going on at Labour Party state level in Abia State, despite all that's happening, don't you think that the number one citizen, Mr. Alex Otti, should have thrown support behind those who were competing for the local government elections under the umbrella of Labour Party?
Thank you once again, my sister. You know, this thing is always good for people to understand the real issues. What Governor Alex Otti did have an issue. The intervention they did was to save the party. Going to happen in the party. What our people repose in the party remains strong. So, having the audacity, having shown the audacity to say you have dissolved the state working committee of the party in the state without recourse to the leader of the party, without adherence to what the Constitution says. Even when that judgment that recognized Barrister Bure as the national chairman came, we did not antagonize, we didn't say anything negative. What happened was that the leaders entered a notice of appeal. And that is why I am laughing at the claim by the Prince Ndubeze that he's the acting state chairman. Like I said, that's an act of impersonation. Why do I say so? First, we know those who constitute the NEC. Was the NEC properly constituted before that decision was taken? Assuming the NEC was constituted, which of course was not properly constituted, you got a judgment and a notice of appeal was entered. Once a notice of appeal is entered in a matter and a suit number assigned, it automatically serves as a stay. So what they did was illegal. But the most important thing is that it was ab initio an affront. And because what they did said a lot about what their intentions were or what their intentions are, we got alarmed. So we needed to take a decision that would not endanger the interest of our supporters, our leaders, our structure at all levels. Because you don't know what will be the end of the litigation. If you say you are recognizing and supporting those on the platform of Labour Party, and tomorrow, given the illegality associated, with all that they've done, and tomorrow the court takes a decision that endangers you, what that implies that you would have ended up winning an election for people, for other people to take.
Okay. Mr. Ferdinand, we have Mr.
So that was what we avoided.
All right, now, Mr. Ferdinand, we have Mr. Ndubeze back with us. However, I wanted to draw attention to one of the reasons why we're having both of you on this conversation here today. Only just last week on Sunday, you and I were on the news together where you actually expressed some of these thoughts. I had referred to Mr. Ndubeze as the acting chairman of the State Labour Party, to which you had retorted, in fact, said that that was an act of impersonation. I'm going to ask that we play that video so that we can see this sample from last week before we continue with this, perhaps maybe even a report.
I'm insisting I made a statement, so he can go ahead and respond. I'm not denying the fact that I said that.
Sure.
Let's take a look at that video, however, still.
Okay.
Okay, I'm being told that we can already, just for the sake of time, let Mr. Ndubeze continue with his. So you've heard the comments from Mr. Ferdinand, and I'm wondering what you think or what your reply would be, Mr. Prince.
Yes. What actually happened is that my friend is being economical with the truth of the matter. We should always know that Labour Party or any other organizations as such runs on Constitution. And the Constitution of Labour Party did not give recognition to most of the things they have alleged or they are acting upon. The National Working Committee of Labour Party in Nigeria, in the issue of my appointment, before my appointment, somebody was appointed on acting capacity, and acting capacity by the Labour Party Constitution runs for 90 days. and there was somebody that was there, maybe he didn't perform within 90 days or after 90 days, he has to be relieved. Who gave him that appointment as acting chairman? Is the National Working Committee. He could be nominated by the State Working Committee and his name be sent to the National Working Committee. At the National Working Committee, 2/3 of the National Working Committee has the right to relieve his position from him. Just as I am now the National Acting Chairman. The appointment letter was signed by the National Chairman, Julius Abure, and the National Secretary. So was his own. So it is the National Working Committee, National Executive Council, has the right to appoint on a acting capacity, and they have the right to relieve. So in this capacity, that was what was done, and it is perfect. They cannot contest it because the person that has hired you also have the right to fire you, according to the constitution of the party. That is by the way. Then coming to the genesis of the problem in Labour Party, is also a constitutional base, which some people, or including some of our leaders, didn't take into consideration, and they started calling meetings that are not in tandem with the party constitution. And when we talk about party, it's all about constitution, and the constitution makes the party to be supreme to individual candidates of the party or individual members of the party. There was an issue that came up in the party. It's a family issue. Every political party has one issue or the other. But how you resolve the matter is the issue. This one that happened in Labour Party, the way they try to resolve it makes the matter to escalate. So when the stakeholders meeting was called in Abia State, the constitution of the party as it is didn't give power for such assemblage of people. And they took a decision that the party leadership at the national level has been dissolved. As they dissolved the national, so they dissolved the state, so they dissolved the local government, so they dissolved the ward across the 36 states of the federation, including Federal Capital Territory. If you calculate the numbers of EXTO, it's more than 10,000. They decided to dissolve. And the leadership of the party under Julius Abure said, no, you don't have the right. Our constitution doesn't give you the right to set up a stakeholders forum and dissolve the National Executive Council and other leadership from the state down to the world. Our party did not give you that power. That is the genesis of this problem. It is not a state problem. It is a national problem.
Now,
so we were surprised.
Hello? I can hear Ms. Ondubueze. I think it's best for us to talk about this in terms of the loss, the Labour Party's loss for the local government election, right? Although it is not an isolated incident when it comes to Labour's party loss, losing all 17, only ZLP won 15, and then YPP won 2 of the local government, elections in Abia State. But it begs to ask a question about the strength of Labour Party in Abia State, right? And what it would mean for the executive of the state when you're losing local government elections. Is that not a concern or a worry for both factions of Labour Party? Ms. Ondubueze.
Well, it is unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate what had happened during this local government election, but we are not surprised about it.
Why?
Because the leader of the party in the state is Excellency Dr. L.S. Oti. So he is the pilot of the Labour Party in Abia State. So in this election, intentionally, he decided to drive the party to another party. So this is like me.
Mr. Ndubueze, this is very accusatory statements because you are the acting chairman of the state of Labour Party in the state. Why is that? Where is that responsibility now vested on Mr. Alex Otti?
I'm saying that he is the leader of the party in Abia State. Those people that ran election on Labour Party did not run it in their own instruction. It was done in the instruction of His Excellency Dr. Alex Otti. There's no two ways about it. Those candidates cannot say, oh, it is not true, because they don't have the power, they don't have the structure, they don't have the capacity, they don't have also APSEC that conducted the election. So our governor is all and all in the party. And he took that advantage and do what he chose that is best to him. But we are shocked and surprised how he could take such decision against the party that supported him, against the party that gave him the platform. Even when his own election was tried to be rigged, the whole Nigerians stood behind and said, no, it will not happen until the needful was done and he secured his mandate. So in the other circumstances, we are highly disappointed that the governor, which all Abians supported, Dr. Alex Otti doesn't have any issue in Abia State. He is a working governor. Everybody likes him in Abia State. Everybody is supporting him in Abia State. So he wouldn't say that there's a fraction in Labour Party Abia State that lead to that decision. So it is his choice. And your choice is your choice. As an adult, as the leader of the party, we don't have the capacity to support him. All the stand we took is, Oga, this matter is a national issue. We shouldn't be Abia State problem. If it is Abia State problem, then we know that it's Abia State problem. But in as much as the Labour Party issue is concerned, it is not Abia State issue. That's why most of us that are standing with the party said we will defend the party.
All right, Mr. Prince Ndubueze, it's quite interesting that you keep, pointing fingers at, Dr. Otti, when again you are the acting chairman of Labour Party for the state. But let me come to you, the essay here to Media and Communications for the Governor, and that's Mr. Ferdinand. If you have any reaction, you want to react to Mr. Ndubueze's comments. Okay. First of all, you have the floor. Right to reply. Go ahead.
Thank you, my sister. In responding to the question about who the chairman is, about the accusation I made, he made reference to the constitution of the party. But in expatiating, he talked about the acting chairman being appointed and later removed after 19 days, and another him himself appointed. He refused to tell you people the truth here. The truth is that the convention was done. The former chairman, Mr. C.K. Igara, contested and now became the Southeast Zonal Vice Chairman. And by the Constitution, of course he resigned, by the Constitution, the Vice Chairman South, which is Mr. Emma Otti, automatically, by the provision of the Constitution, took over in acting capacity. And he was to act until Congress.
We seem to have lost Mr. Ferdinand once again. We're hoping that his network would be better so we can have him finish his thought on that statement. But we're hoping that he comes back. Let's continue to try. Now, Mr. Ndubueze, if you're still there. Now, you noted... Yes. Oh, please go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Good. So, like I said, he refused to talk about what the Constitution says. He talked about the national chairman removing the state chairman, the acting chairman, and appointing another person. Now making it look like a personal thing. We are talking about a political party that has a constitution. And I told you that the man they claimed to have removed became acting chairman on the basis of the provisions of the Constitution, following the resignation of the former state chairman, who now became the Southeast Zonal Vice Chairman. And he was to act as the acting chairman. In fact, he is to, because he remains the acting chairman until congresses are held. That is the Constitution. That's number one. Two, I also made reference to the case in courts where, in spite of the fact that a favorable judgment was given for Barrister Julius Apude, we respect it. And an appeal was entered. And the law is that once an appeal has been validly entered and a suit number assigned, stay of execution is to be upheld and respected. So what they are doing is a flagrant disobedience to our law. And they will claim, even Mr. Dubeze, President Dubeze, when he was talking, or when they were demonstrating recently, they were calling, say they are obedient, they're obedient. You are obedient. Meanwhile, the man you claim to be following, they came together. I mean, the creme de la creme of the party came together and took a decision based on information they got from INEC and everybody that the tenure of this man had elapsed. So even if you were going to litigate, you needed to come with some sense of civility, sense of decorum, sense of respect, but they've gone out there to say all kinds of things. So you discover that they're only interested in answering leaders of the party. They are not even interested in building the structure, in galvanizing the people, in convincing the people to follow them.
So, Mr. Ferdinand,
on the issue of election,
under the structure which you have just put now regarding the constitutions of the party, whether resignation or no resignation or shift in office, who should be the acting chairman of the Labour Party in Abia State right now, according to you?
He is a Maoti. He is a Maoti. He knows. He knows. In fact, before they start him, they were running a parallel distance, and then it was just to sell forms and collect money for the local government election. That was why they did what they did. And they know it's unfair. And again, there is a question you asked him concerning the party, the election, the challenges, the victory and all the outcome of the election. One thing they have failed to tell themselves the truth, that Labour Party did not contest the governorship election in 2023 only in Abia State. They contested in other states, but they won only in Abia. That says a lot about the quality of the individual, about the structure he has built over the years. He has been on this since 2014, has shown capacity, has shown resilience, has shown consistency. So wherever Governor Alexoti goes, the people will follow him. So the people who think that by his answering Labour Party without quality leaders, without those candidates that will have the capacity to win election, is nothing. Because when we joined, without sounding immodest, without showing disrespect to the party didn't have a party office in Abia. When Dr. Alexoti joined, they didn't have. That was why we had to ask them to take his one of the buildings there, the place that we were using as Labour. Okay.
I think we've lost Mr. Ferdinand again, but let me come to Mr. Ndweze. Mr. Ndweze, after everything Mr. Ferdinand has just said, do you agree that you are the leader of a faction of the LP at this point?
The subject is that in Abia State today, we don't have a fraction of Labour Party. We have only one Labour Party. And Dr. Alexoti have also said that he is still a member of Labour Party. He did not say he is a member of a fraction of Labour Party. It's just that some persons working within the government's corridor just want to foment trouble, orchestrate trouble, to make sure that they displace the core leaderships of the party, because they came into the party with a quite number of persons. And any other thing you are doing in Abia State, without these persons, it is assumed that you are getting it wrong. We are saying the party is supreme. We have 18 registered party in Nigeria. And His Excellency Dr. Alexoti choose to run with Labour Party in 2023 election. After he has run with ABGA, he has been a member of PDP, a member of ABGA, a member of APC before coming to Labour Party. And in Labour Party, he secured a ticket and run election and won the election. People should be able to remember that. Even if they have called us, oh, Labour Party is a vehicle, does it mean that a vehicle that carried you or conveyed you to a place of your destination shouldn't be recognized any longer? Labour Party today, we are being called, oh, we are a vehicle. We are a vehicle. Is it the case that in issue of Abia State, party, it doesn't matter it is only individual member that matters alone. Again, we don't know. But all we are saying, we want to abide by the constitution of the party. The issues my friend is talking about is issues that are in the court, that we ought to allow the court to take decision about the leadership of the party. It has nothing to do with Abia State. It has nothing to do with the local government election that has been conducted.
Mr. Ndubueze, let me call both of your attention, right? There's a collective goal here, and that is the people of Abia State. Whether it's the yourself, acting chairman, or whoever is supposed to be the acting chairman, or Dr. Alex Oti as the state governor, the most important thing here is the people of Abia State. And what the collective objective is governance at the grassroots level. That's what we're discussing here, right? Labour Party has lost all 17 local government states areas during the last election. And Abia State is supposed to be a stronghold for Labour Party. Losing the 17 local government area, what does this mean for Dr. Alex Oti's government and for Labour Party at large? I'm going to start with you, Mr. Ferdinand.
What it actually means is that people, the masses, attach more importance to quality of leadership, the quality of leadership we have, than a political party. What it means is that if the people are convinced that a political platform is going to be a distraction to them, it's going to cause them problems, they will jettison you and look at the people, the quality of the individuals that are running, not minding the platform they might be running on, and take a decision. Here, we are concerned about what we are bringing to the table, the gains of democracy we are bringing to the doorsteps of our people. So we would love to remain in the Labour Party, and we are doing everything humanly possible to resolve the issues. But where some individuals, because there is one thing we need to understand here, there is no room for independent candidacy. So as long as there is no room for independent candidacy, you must have a platform with which to run an election. So if you discover that some individuals are being used to lay a landmine for you, coming from experience, knowing the kind of things people have suffered in the past, so we are very smart, knowing that people could use litigation to set a trap for us, ensure that the suit is dragged until maybe 2026. And you said, I'm in Labour Party. At the dying minute, maybe after you would have conducted the election, selected your candidates, something funny will happen, and they will tell you that Labour Party does not have candidates, that the people who were elected will have been issued choosing illegally. So we are smart enough to know the trap. Here, we are focusing on governance. So we are happy that what is happening now, so that we have the time to take our decision. Whatever is happening here will not affect governance in any way.
All right. Let me come to you, Mr. Ndubueze, and ask you as well, right? Mr. Ferdinand said something. He said that what this means for Abia State is that the people do not care about the party or whatever party. They care about governance and who will represent them. Is that true? Do you agree as well?
He is not saying the truth. The truth about this matter, you can physically come to Abia State and investigate. There was no election in Abia State. The result of these elections were written on Wednesday before the election on Saturday. When we got wind of it, we called media houses like you, and we went and addressed the world and said, we have heard that on Wednesday, that was on Thursday, we have heard that the result of the election coming up on Saturday has already been written. His Excellency, please don't allow it to happen. And they refused.
Mr. Ndubueze, you're making very heavy allegations and accusations here. You said the results have already been written.
Yes, ma'am. Take, for instance, I will give you some local governments that if you go to their World Coalition Center as we speak today, all the materials for the election are still there. The electoral officers ran away with the result sheet and left the materials there. They didn't allow the coalition officers to bring the result of the elections. In my own local government, Obingwa, around 3 or 4 wards, we are going to the coalition center in Obingwa local government with their results. On their way going, the result has been announced already in Omoahia. So it is in Isukwato, so it is in Nohafia, where the deputy governor beat somebody and all the rest of them. There was no election in Abia State. The result of this election was written, and we said it, we came to the air and said it. Nobody will say that we did not come out to say it. We say it, that's the only thing we have to do. We don't have money, we don't have gun, we don't have power. All the thing we needed to do is to come and allow the world that what is going on in Abia State is not election, but it is selection. And as they selected, so they wrote the result and submitted and announced by themselves. So there's no words about it.
Mr. Wabese, unfortunately, we've lost Mr. Ferdinand. However, this is a very interesting topic here that just keeps on giving because of the allegations that you're throwing out there. We're going to follow this continuously. And of course, in subsequent issues of Breakfast Extra, we're going to be coming to you to, well, at least give some, well, credence to some of our insights. Thank you very much, Judith, to some of the things that you've just said here today. Thank you very much, Mr. Ndubweze, Mr. Prince Ndubweze, and also thank you very much to Mr. Ferdinand Ekioma. Well, let's continue to watch this develop. Thank you.
Well, that was the caught us off guard there, but it's time for us to bring you Focus Africa. In today's Focus Africa segment on Breakfast Extra, we deep dive into one of Africa's most urgent and promising challenges is the role of critical minerals in driving the continent's renewable energy growth. Now, this year's African Energy Week put a spotlight on how minerals like lithium, cobalt, and nickel are becoming game changers for Africa's green energy transition, and with discussions centered on harnessing these resources to fuel everything from solar power systems to electric vehicles. The potential is immense, but tapping into it requires strategic investments, sound policies, and robust infrastructure development.
So the event highlighted both the opportunities and the challenges, underscoring how African countries must balance mineral extraction with environmental and social responsibility. With various African governments making ambitious comments and also commitments towards green energy, the discussions also underscored the need for actionable policies that could set the continent on a path to becoming a leader in renewable energy production and supply. There's a package on this Africa Energy Week, so let's let you guys see it, and then we'll be back to talk small about it after.
In Africa, SMEs account for over 90% of businesses and provide nearly 80% of jobs. However, they face immense challenges in accessing capital due to bureaucratic hurdles, a lack of financial literacy, and insufficient support from traditional banks.
We found something like community financing, there were issues. And that's where we have been trying to modify it to see whether we can actually penetrate further. It appears that issues in terms of the interest rates, we know where the monetary policy rate is in Nigeria right now, it's almost 30%. And accessibility, capacity is also something we have been building.
That's where Musa comes in. At Moneda Investment, they recognized the barriers and developed a software to streamline funding applications, giving entrepreneurs access to necessary finance and resources.
Musa is essentially, our attempt to expand the reach of the good work that the team at Moneda have been doing. Moneda is a local content financier. For over the last 8 years, we've been supporting local contractors in Nigeria, that find it difficult to access capital from the banking system. As we all know, banking in Africa is very difficult for the local businessman. So everyone has been trying to come up with solutions of how to get capital, to these companies, these entrepreneurs.
The potential for SMEs in Africa is enormous. By addressing their funding and operational challenges, they can spur innovation and growth, benefiting both the economy and communities.
We've identified, a specific type of SME that we absolutely must get capital to, and we've chosen to focus our attention on them. And those are the people that this app or this software is for, Musa, and we call them critical SMEs.
An incredible approach, but how does Musa specifically address these challenges?
We don't need all the collateral. We enable them to get access to capital to do more and more of those contracts. And we cause them to scale faster than they ever would with a bank line. And that's essentially what the vision is.
The future is bright for SMEs in Africa. Proper funding coupled with upskilling and technological support can unlock unprecedented opportunities and foster a new generation of business leaders. In Cape Town, for News Central, Bongani Sisiba.
I want to say thank you to Bongani there for that report on Africa Energy Week. And of course, I want to say thank you to you and everybody else who was out there to see
Thank you to you and everybody
else
out there too for watching.
We've actually come to the end of the, this weekend's installment for Breakfast Extra. A very exciting one it was. Unfortunately, some people across Nigeria might have seen it in the dark or not seen it at all because of the outage we've been having.
I don't like this bad rep people keep giving my great nation, Nigeria. Nigeria, we hail thee.
It is great. We're still here. We haven't jackpot yet. So that's a testament to that. However,
you need to leave.
Coming to an end on today's show, we have to bring you our takeout. Now, first off, our takeout needs a bit of embodying from before we go into it. How many Nigerians exist? In the last census, I can say that categorically I wasn't counted, so I'm not sure if I'm among the 200 million that's been touted so far. However, are we due for another census? And what are the implications or, use of a census? How does it work for the populace, the people? We had a very interesting conversation on Jasiri with Ali Baba, if you remember. And he actually highlighted some very impressive...
It was actually at a place
at
the table.
Yes, a place at the table, yes. And a very interesting take on how important census are for a country. You've never seen it like this before, but it's rather simple.
And given how people always have children, especially in an economic downturn, you guys keep having kids. I don't know why you do that thing. I don't know why. Stop making babies.
There's a simple reason, Judith, and it's because when there's a lack of anything else to do.
Oh, you got busy. Down and dirty.
Let's take our takeout goodbye for us for this weekend. We'll catch you guys again for next weekend from Saturday, 8 a.m. Thank you for joining.
Bye.